Hey, it's Fitz, and if you don't know who I am, here's a quick bio. I'm a veteran sports journalist who writes, does TV, radio, daily YouTube videos, and I'm a longtime podcaster. Also, I have metastatic stage 4 prostate cancer that came out of remission in January of 23. During the pandemic, my doctors advised me to stay at home, and the Life of Fitz podcast was born. My original diagnosis forecast that I would be dead by age 60. But as I start season 5 of this podcast, I am 60 and still calling the many friends, athletes, coaches, colleagues, and medical advisors who I've met throughout my life. Oh, and I'm still hitting the record button and now doing so on video. Welcome to my life and the Life of Fitz podcast. Presented by the great people at Blueville Nursery in Manhattan. This podcast has grown to mean a lot to me, but getting guests this year has been interesting because I try to focus in a little bit on people who have stepped into my life and been meaningful. You know, you've seen Neighbors, you've seen a lot of Manhattan podcasts, which was an oddity for the first 4 seasons. And we're going to do another one today. And we are going to finish up the season next week with another neighbor who was supposed to be on this week, but my week spun out of control and our schedules failed to line up. So I'll close my season 5 with him next week. But once I realized he couldn't do this week, I kind of scrambled and I hit a home run. And sometimes that's the way life works. When things aren't working out the way you want to, you got to make the best of it. And sometimes the best of it ends up being better. Not that Jareem Dowling is a better guest than my one next week, but it sure did fall in my lap. Jareem hopped in at the last minute, even though he had family in town. He was in town, which right now, a lot of the coaches are out taking vacations, which is fantastic before school starts. And to get him on short notice was great because if you're not familiar with Jareem Dowling, he's an assistant coach for Coach Jerome Tang on the Kansas State basketball staff. He was the first guy, the guy that was announced basically with Tang. He was always going to be coming with Jerome Tang, whether it was Manhattan, Kansas, Manhattan, New York, or Fiji. I don't know if they play basketball in Fiji, but they are inseparable. They've coached together and they've bonded as incredible friends. And through that process, as you'll hear, Jareem has been soaking up life lessons like we all do around Jerome Tang. It's hard to explain what he does influencing you for good, but he does it. And Jerome just bestows blessings on people around him. And a lot of this talk with Jareem Dowling, Coach Reem, will be about that, but also about his life, because it's a fascinating life. The journey to get to Manhattan, Kansas was pretty amazing. So let's get to my discussion now and call Jareem Dowling right here in Manhattan, Kansas. And now we bring in Jareem Dowling, and luckily we booked this in the morning, so he's not melting outside right now. You probably can't breathe because of the humidity in Kansas, but he's here with us. Jareem, thanks for taking time and hopping in when I had a shift of my schedule.
Hey, look, man, I'm the best substitute in the country. Anybody fails and you wanna add somebody at the last minute, as long as the wife allows it, I'll be there.
It's that's always the asterisk, isn't it?
Yeah,
as long as the wife allows it.
Yep.
I'm like, okay, I need to get someone. Oh, Jareem's in town because I found out most of the coaches are gone, and I'm like, oh, maybe I can get him because I won't have to work very hard. He'll just tell stories. Well, let's take this all the way back to your beginnings and how did you get into basketball coaching?
I got into basketball coaching because of Bill Lewitt. He's an assistant coach at Oral Roberts. He had a profound way on my life with the game of basketball. Matter of fact, let me take it back before that. Okay. I was in the Virgin Islands. I love baseball. Atlanta Braves was my team. That's all I ever did was baseball till I got to high school and try to be cool and not do schoolwork and be a little bit disobedient. So my mom knew that was my first love, and she stopped me from playing baseball. And that really, really hurt me. That hurt me. That's like taking away my PS5, PlayStation. It hurt me. And I happened to have a coach that came in from the States that was, putting together a basketball team for our high school. I said, what the heck? Let me go try out. Wasn't any good, but his passion and his energy that he coached with was very intriguing to me. It was kind of different energy than baseball, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I started playing it. And crazy thing is, my mom didn't stop me from playing it because she know I didn't love it, But little she know I fell in love with it, a year later, and that's all I wanted to do was play basketball. And fast forward, kept pursuing it. Just didn't know where it was going to take me. And I played high school ball in Delaware when I moved from the Virgin Islands in '97. And when I got to the point where I had to decide to go to college, I realized I didn't do too much schoolwork to get to a real college. So I ended up having to go to junior college, and that's where I met Bill Lewitt. And he instilled a lot in me with the game of basketball. And I just remember the impact that he had on my life and the impact he had on my teammates' life when we weren't on the court. And that intrigued me, because, you have practice, you have film, you have all that stuff, but then you see the reaction of your teammates when the coach is not around. And that's when I knew I wanted to be a coach, because what he was teaching us on the court, off the court, we were trying to live that way off the court as players and, student athletes. And I was like, man, I want to be a coach. And the tell sign for me was my first coaching job was at camp with him in the summer. I really, really liked it. I like coaching kids, seeing them get better in a week's time. And then I went on to play small Division I at Maryland Eastern Shore, where my team wasn't very good. And I realized what good coaching is and what bad coaching is. And we had an intramural league, and my friends that weren't on the basketball team asked me to coach it. And I fell in love with it. After that, I knew I wanted to pursue it. I didn't know how I was going to go about it, and got into it. I had to cut my dreads. I had dreads at the time. And I was like, all right, I'm going to sell out and, try to get into coaching. And I knew if I got in to coaching, I could take some of the bad individuals that I have met along the way out of coaching, because coaching is a hard profession, as you know it. It's hard to get into. There's limited spots. And I figured if I can get in and do a good job, there'd be one less bad coach in coaching.
I think a lot of coaches that come up are thinking about the coaching, the actual X's and O's and basketball, football, baseball, whatever it is. But you nailed it. The most essential duty of coaching really doesn't deal with the sport. It deals with the athlete and what kind of person they are, and learning to put in the work that you finally learned how to do. And you can have such a profound effect on young people's lives as someone did with you.
Definitely. The X's and O's in the last 3 years of being here, I've gotten a lot better on the X's and O's. And because that's something Coach Tang wants everybody to be involved in, get better at. But he still allows me to use what I think is my superpower, relationships, using the game to teach life lessons, giving my own life lessons from basketball. Telling the guys the habits that they form now is going to be a part of their life for the rest of their life. All the teammates that I play with that work really, really hard still work really, really hard to this day, in our 40s. The ones that were lazy are still lazy to this day. So I just try to instill that with the guys and do it with basketball as the carrot, as the way to teach them, there's so many different ways to teach the game. And it's a blessing to be working for Coach Tang, because he allows everybody to do it in their special, unique way. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're successful in recruiting and winning basketball games.
Well, you were with Coach McCaslin, what, for 4 or 5 years down at North Texas?
I want to say 5, and a year before that, Arkansas State.
Yeah. What kind of effect did he have on you? Another tie to that great Baylor program.
Unbelievable. I'm always have love for him because when I came out of an investigation in the NCAA way back, he got his first head coaching job and he hired me. That says a lot about him. It says a lot about his relationship with Coach Tang. And I'm forever grateful for him for hiring me. And the people that he put in my life amongst the staff, that are brothers today with me and be my brothers for the rest of my life. Just a leader of men, a guy that's a motivator, a guy that can make anything happen. He'll see a rock and think he could get water out of the rock, and he'll make you believe it too.
Well, he's doing a good job at Tech. It's going to be
absolutely
a pain in K-State's butt, but that's a pretty good. He's a good dude from everything I've heard. So let's take this back. When did you meet Jerome Tang?
2006 or 7.
Wise, yeah.
Yeah, 2006 or 7. Monte Ross was supposed to be the head coach of the U.S. Virgin Islands national team, and he was the head coach of the University of Delaware. He had just gotten the job. I was supposed to be his assistant, just to be the liaison between him and the people of the Virgin Islands. And, getting a new job, it was hard for him to take on the Virgin Islands job in the same summer as a new job. As you know how hectic that can be. And I happened to get the job as an interim basis my first year because he couldn't come at the last minute. I think I finished like 5th in the tournament, a team of 8. And then the federation, Uzi Richards, who is really, really high up on the FIBA board, once was the president of FIBA, America's basketball. He appointed me the head coach, and then a year later, he said, I got an assistant for you. So I'm thinking it's going to be a local high school coach or somebody. And here comes this pretty looking dude with pretty hair, slick back, the perfect mustache. I'm like, who is this model? And happened to be Coach Tang. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. I was intimidated because where he was coming from Baylor. And I was just a junior college assistant, but those 4 weeks in the summer, you could never tell that he was at Baylor and I was at Cecil Community College. You would think the roles was opposite. He was washing laundry. He was driving the team. He was picking up lunch for the players. He was asking me what he can do. I'm like, man, this doesn't even make no sense. Like, he should be telling me to do this stuff. But that's when I fell in love with Coach Tang, when a guy that had his status, his magnitude, was so humble to listen to a guy that doesn't even have health insurance at the time, and I just fell in love with him. And then, my first year in coaching, I won a national championship in junior college. So I thought I was going to be the next Greg Popovich, the next John Thompson. And I remember saying to Coach Tang, I said, hey, when you get a job, you got to hire me. And he looked me dead in the face and he said, I'm not going to be able to hire you. I got a lot of people ahead of you. He was just direct, straight. It wasn't no sugarcoat. I was like, oh, crap. Like, he just basically broke my heart without even trying. And my love grew for him because he was honest. Most people tell you, oh, I got you. You're on my list. I'm going to call you. He told me straight up. And I respected him for that. I fell in love with him even more for that. And I didn't have any bad feelings, I was like, okay, I respect it. And I wasn't out to I'm going to prove you wrong.
Right.
Our relationship didn't change. He didn't treat me no less. We just continued to grow our relationship over the years. We worked together for 11 years. overseas coaching, won a couple championships and medals together, and put a lot of kids in the Virgin Islands in college, which I think is even a more prouder statement for both of us than winning medals and for our country. And the conversation just changed probably 12, 15 years into the relationship, where we would talk daily. We'll talk on his way home from work, and we'll both share our days, what was funny, what was hard, what was a basketball question, just picking each other's brain. And one day he just said, when we work together, and I hung up the phone, and I was like, oh my God, he might hire me. He might hire me. I was like, this is crazy. This is crazy. And I was like, okay, I was happy. I was in love with the people I was working with Grant McCasland. Had numerous opportunities to leave, but I told Grant McCasland and staff, the only people I would leave them for is for Jerome Tang if he got a job. I didn't care where the job was. Wherever he got a job, that's the only person I was leaving for. I wasn't entertaining jobs. One of my close brothers, Ross Hodge, told me, like, don't chase jobs, and I took what he said with that, and I realized, like, he's right. I'm gonna chase good people, and I was with great people at North Texas and Arkansas State, and I knew Coach Tang was a great human being, so I was gonna wait it out. If he wasn't the head coach here, I would be with him. Even if it was Jackson State, I was gonna be there with Coach Tang.
In my time around him, and it amazes me how his kind of persona changed from the suit wearing guy that at Baylor to he gets up here and he's casual Jerome Tang, and his personality really seemed to come out. But he coaches everyone. And what I mean by that is not basketball. I mean, he tries to make everyone better at whatever they're doing, and you don't realize he's doing it. And then you're like, yeah, he does. He really does. And he's done that with me. He's made me a better person. He's taught me how to treat people better. He's just the most natural coach I've ever seen. He just puts his blessings upon everyone around him to improve their lives.
Yeah, his faith in the way he lives his life. You want to work for him. You want to work with him. You want to work alongside him. And my message to the players every day is, like, don't take this man for granted. Like, this is a special human being. This is somebody that you can tap into for the rest of your life. And, that's why he married me and my wife. I wouldn't want anybody else to marry me and my wife but Coach Tang. And he did it on short notice. He did it in my living room. The only thing I wish he said, it was like he gave me some powers in the marriage. Everything was for the wife. When he was like, my job is to serve her. My job is to protect her. I'm like, Coach, is she gonna do anything for me? But you know how Coach is. But he's unbelievable. He teaches us how to be better fathers, husbands, coaches. He's just always coaching without coaching. If it makes sense,
it does.
It's a regular relationship. Like he always says, if you want to say something to your wife, say it out loud. And if you don't like how it sounds, don't say it to your wife. He wants us to spend time with our families. He wants us to invest in our loved ones. And because of all that great attributes that he put in us to be better husbands and fathers, that's why we work so well together, work so hard for him, work so hard for the university, because that's who our leader is, And I tell people this all the time. I said, what you see on the internet, on the clip, on the interview, it's really who he is. And he's not a head coach that's talking about the players outside of practice. He tells them to their face, and he's saying the same thing in our staff meetings. And that's the most refreshing thing. It's like he's not trying to get them to do something for the betterment of himself. He's trying to get them to do something for the betterment of themselves, not him. And, as he says, once the cream always rises to the top, and that's why we're able to get so much out of our guys, because they find out after a while how much our staff and Coach Tang loves them, and they run through the wall for him.
Well, I think the first example of his natural coaching and leadership at K-State was honestly getting the students to stop the chant, the FKU chant. It had been tried many a times, and no matter what approach was taken, it was not effective. And here's this guy coming in from the outside, and he just found the coaching angle to communicate to a student body that that's not the way we want to represent ourselves.
Yeah.
What about them? It was just like this. Let's think about how people view us.
I mean, Coach, he just has a way. He has a way, and he looks at every student as his own child, and you feel his energy, you feel his passion, and you don't want to, for lack of a better word, disrespect him. Because he's coming at you with love. His tone is the right tone. He's not yelling. He's not screaming. He's not being demonstrative. And it's just hard not to respect that. And I was shocked too. I thought he was crazy. And I was like, this Coach thing, I would listen to.
Yeah, he just waded into that muck and mire without hesitation and got it fixed. It was for all of us who've been here a while, like, oh, this is different. This is something we haven't seen before. And I think he came at a perfect time for the university and certainly for the basketball program. But it just blows me away at how he never stops coaching. He even does it with the media. I mean, he's not telling us what to do. He's just adjusting us, and we don't know he's doing it. It's a huge skill. And I honestly, Jareem, I don't know if you can learn that. I think you have to be blessed with that. You can try to replicate it, but he just sees life through others' eyes so well. He knows exactly what to say to them to get them going.
Yeah, he's the best. Another trait that is so special about him, I've never heard him say a bad thing about anybody. Like, we spent probably 200 nights in a hotel room together, as far as bunk beds. I mean, that bunk. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've been on bunk beds before where he had to get up on the top, and he was struggling to get up on the top bunk bed. When was in Puerto Rico at one of our tournaments. We've been in a lot of tournaments together, and if I tried to say something negative about a person, because I am human, mm-hmm. He'll stop me right then and there and say, doesn't make him a bad person, just mean he has a flaw. I mean, he's unbelievable. Again, I've never heard him say a bad thing about an individual. He just turns to me and he just look. He let me, I guess he will say whine or say whatever I want to say, and then he'll be like, okay, Jareem, doesn't make him a bad person, just means he has a flaw. It's unbelievable.
That's a beautiful lesson too. I mean, he's just handing that out like candy. I mean, that's just a great lesson to carry through life. Yeah, definitely. It's what's it been like your first 2+ years here in Manhattan, Kansas?
Unbelievable. So unbelievable that I took a vacation here this year. I didn't go anywhere because it's so peaceful. The people are unbelievable. The university is unbelievable. Our leadership from Gene Taylor is unbelievable. I have some unbelievable friends that I've, made throughout my time here that, like, I spent a lot of time talking to that has nothing to do with basketball. Derek Thompson, who owns Next Gen, really good friend of mine. I talk to that dude probably 5 times a week. And it has nothing to do with basketball. We're talking about steaks. I'm learning, different stuff and, different lingos about, farming and cattle. The owners of 9 Rounds, Tim and Mel, boxing gym here in town, really good friends. And then, of course, my staff. I spent a lot of time with my staff, just outside of work, because you really like these people and you love them and you live life, with them. I have great neighbors that make a strong margarita.
That's a good neighbor.
Yeah, you're a really good neighbor. The people, man, the people, the town, the energy, the pace, the lifestyle. I love it. I have zero complaints about Manhattan except one. I wish there were 2 more flights a day out of Manhattan. That's it. We fixed that. Y'all might be stuck with me forever.
I'm with you. Okay, so that's an interesting turn here. What would you like those flights to be? To Dallas or someplace different? Chicago?
It could be the Dallas or Chicago, whichever one, because I know that's probably the easiest to do, or DC or Charlotte.
Yeah.
One of those. But just one more flight a day, because it's if you miss one or flight's late, you stuck.
Yep.
And then you stuck having to drive from Kansas City, which Kansas City is beautiful and the scenery along the route is beauty until you run up to a certain exit. But we'll talk about that another time. But
Yeah.
definitely that's it. Other than that, I love it. A little bit more restaurants would be great, but
Yep.
I'm not complaining. I'm very, very happy. You can't be, as Coach Tang would say again, you can't be grateful and complaining at the same time. So I'm grateful.
Yeah. No, I think most people been in Manhattan a long time would totally agree with those two assessments. We need a few more local restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always harping on people to support the local restaurants and, as best you can, stay out of the chains, but we don't have enough local restaurants right now. But coming out of COVID, oh boy, those local businesses were hurt.
Yeah.
So it'll ramp back up, but I think culturally we need to make sure we're supporting those restaurants. And I don't think it's done well enough to be really blunt, but we'll keep coaching. We'll keep coaching and see if we can get that done. But
Absolutely.
I'm all in on more flights. I wish there's been talk about Washington, D.C. flight, maybe even on a different airline, but I think getting something direct to the East Coast would be wonderful. And I also wish we had a couple flights a day out west. So, going to Dallas to head out west adds a lot. You might as well drive to Kansas City and fly direct at that point.
That's a good point. That's a good point. It stops the 2 or 3 hour layover.
Yeah. Yeah, you might as well drive to KC. I remember one time, this is totally off track. We went to KC to fly to Texas A&M. The flight was delayed, and we were going to Dallas first. And I'm like, if we had driven from home, we would be in Dallas right now.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's I love living in Manhattan, and for many of the same reasons you do. But I would add one other thing that you might add too, if physically possible. An ocean. If we could get an ocean so I can smell the salt air, look, I was born in West Palm Beach, and we didn't live there long with me, but I spent a lot of time in Florida, and it gets in you, man. You can't get out of it.
No, it's a blessing.
Yep.
And it's a curse, because I live probably 3 football fields from the ocean in St. Croix. But the problem is, you're going to be replacing screens a lot from the sea blast and all that stuff. So it's a blessing and a curse. It's nice, but it ain't nice during hurricane season.
No. That's at least hurricane season. They give you a little warning, but it's so massive. It's not like you can go to the basement. You got to go. You got to go somewhere.
Yep,
and
definitely.
I don't want to mess with that. I'm used to tornadoes. I know how to deal with them.
Let's take a short break and hear from our sponsor, Blueville Nursery.
For competitively priced landscape design, irrigation, and lawn maintenance, turn to Blueville Nursery, a family-owned business with more than 50 years of experience. You can trust the Blueville team to design and create a landscape that will accentuate your property's aesthetics. And visit our garden store 6 days a week for the best products in the area. From ornamental trees, shrubs, and flowers, Blueville has it all. Blueville Nursery, located on West Anderson Avenue in Manhattan, Kansas.
Now, let's return to the studio.
So, okay, let's wind it all the way back to when you were growing up. What was it like growing up in the islands?
Which part? Like, because you know me, I have no problem being transparent.
Yeah, no, just we all think of the islands as a magical place, where we go on vacation and the resort's nice. But the reality of a lot of the Caribbean and the Virgin Islands is there's some poverty, man. And it can be a tough place when you get out of the resorts and into the real world.
I wouldn't say I grew up poor. I grew up having just enough.
Yep.
I spent a lot of time with my grandmother growing up, and she taught me a lot of survival skills. With my grandmother, when I was in elementary, when I got home from school after like 2:30, from 2:30 to about 6, I would sell peanuts every day downtown to like our local legislative building, all the businesses, to try to make money to help my grandmother out. My grandmother didn't have a job. She just sat underneath a tree, which most people in the Virgin Islands do. Sat on a tree, and she sold her candy and her goods every day while I was at school. And when I came out of school, I basically was the relief pitcher. She would go home, I would help her walk up the hill with all the stuff, and then she'll give me what she wants me to sell for the day, and I go sell it. And during the day, we would use electricity, and then during the night, we would use a lantern. You know what a lantern is?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
We would use a lantern where kerosene oil, would burn slow, and that would be the light we used to go to the bathroom. At night, we would use buckets of water to use the bathroom versus the daytime where you flush it normally.
Mm-hmm.
So I've grew up learning how to survive on the bare minimum, so that we could have enough for the next day. My dad was incarcerated a lot of my life. My mom was a single mom till she met my stepdad, and my mom always worked 2 jobs. And but just island kid walking around. If you're not at school or out in public, you're walking around barefooted on dirt, or climbing a tree for mangoes, or climbing a coconut tree, or going to the beach, fishing, riding horses, with no saddles. The first time I ever rode a horse with a saddle was when I came to the States. I looked at it, I was like, oh, what is this? But usually you break a stick off of a tree, and that was your whip to get the horse to move. And you just rode horses on Saturdays. You wake up, your mom know you wasn't coming back until about 5 o'clock, but she know you was going to be with your friends. You was going to be safe on the beach. Just the normal island hustle, like what you would see going on vacation. I was living that life. Where before you get to your resort, where you see people walking with something on their head. That was me growing up. That was me growing up, helping my grandmother do whatever it takes to keep the light on, or just help her make her rent that month. And it's instilled a lot in me to where I'm not embarrassed or ashamed to do anything I need to do to survive legally. So
yeah, I mean, dude, that sounds like a great childhood. And looking back, you can realize what you didn't have, but you had food, shelter, and love.
Yes.
You got those 3 things, you're living a pretty good life. You're way ahead of the curve with a lot of people.
Yeah.
They might have food, shelter, hell, they might have money, but they might not have much love in their life. And that's a dreadful existence.
No, I had a lot of love. My grandmother gave me a lot of love. I wasn't looking to the left and the right to see what somebody else had, because I was happy. I was happy. I was living a good life. I didn't hate my life. And it just makes me appreciate even more what I have now. And it allows me to work harder, so that I can help other family members, my wife, her family, whatever, because I remember where I came from, and it's instilled in me. I'm not ashamed. It's part of who I am.
Yeah. Well, you learned how to probably deal with a variety of people too, doing that. And that's a skill you have perfected. You're comfortable in all situations, it strikes me.
I love people. I love good people. If you're a good person, you're gonna get a good response from me. I always tell people this: I'm a teddy bear, but don't forget it ends in beer. you know. So sometimes if you poke the bear, that same teddy bear that's laughing and jokey can get serious too, you know.
That's funny because I always tell coaches about the media. We're like bears. If you feed us, we'll show up, but eventually we'll turn on you. Eventually we'll rip your face off for no reason. We might just wake up the wrong side of the bed, but feed us, we'll come back. But yeah, that's man, that's an amazing life, and others might not describe it that way because of the, you know, what you didn't have. But boy, what freedom as a child to go play on the islands. You know, I look back at my life before game consoles existed, and you know, the luxuries we have now, and we didn't know we didn't have them. We just went and played ball with our friends. We just got hopped on our bikes and went places. And there was a lot of lessons and learned how to deal with people, and you know, to meet different people and deal with them. And now I worry about kids that just are down in their basement gaming, and they're only communicating with people via text or, you know, through gaming, talking trash on people. And I think it shows up in society, to be real honest.
My wife gets on me a lot because we have a basement, and that's where the PlayStation is. And she always says, you don't use it. You're always outside. So growing up in the islands, 95% of families don't have air conditioning.
Yep.
Okay. So during the daytime, 95% of families will be outside hanging out under a tree because it's cooler outside under a tree, because you either have a galvanized roof or a concrete roof because we're in hurricane territory. So I'm still in that limelight where I'm always outside because it just was instilled in me, and I go inside in the evening, you know. So I'm always outside during the daytime because that was the coolest place in the island to be, under a tree, you know, eating some mango or some cane or something, drinking coconut water or something, just chilling outside until the evening. Then when it's evening time, you go inside, the house is a lot cooler. It's at least 30 degrees cooler, you know? So I love being outside. I love it.
Where was the first place when you left the island the first time? Where in the States did you land, and what was going through young Jareem's mind at that point?
First time I left the islands was 1989 after Hurricane Hugo.
Okay. Yeah.
I moved to New York for about 6 months because we had no electricity, no power, no nothing, no food was coming in. So I moved there, and it was a culture shock. It was the first time dealing with winter. It was the first time seeing all this many people, this many cars, trains, all that. So it was different for me. And but it turned on a light switch that was in the back of my head that I didn't know I would eventually want to live in the States after that time, because it was a short period of time, you know, and I went back home, you know, once everything got back up and running. But it was very intriguing, and I realized like how much possibilities there were on American soil in the States. And it just always been there. And probably, what's that, 8-9 years later, the opportunity arose for me to move back to the States without my parents. And I was shocked that my mom and my dad allowed it. And I moved to Wilmington, Delaware with a host family, a judge, who took me in with her and her 4 biological kids. And they've been in my life now for 27 years. And they've been there through the good, the bad, and the ugly with me. And just changed my life, you know. I love the States, and I love my island too. So it's been a beautiful journey.
Man, just talking to you, we haven't had this kind of conversation before, and it strikes me how much you accept the good people want to pour into you.
Oh, absolutely. And I want to pour it out too.
People fight that. Some people push back. They don't want to have that kind of influence, any kind of influence necessarily. But once you learn how to sort the good from the bad, you trust your gut on who's really looking out for you and what's a bad path that they might be stepping on for you. life gets a lot easier when you start trusting that gut and accepting the good and trying to turn away from the bad. It's a hard lesson, and you learned it in early life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My advice to anybody, man, is chase good people. Chase good people and good will happen. And don't do anything with an agenda, like do it out of, let's do it out of love. Like it's so much easier to be good than it is to be bad. Like you really have to, like, deep down inside want to be bad, because it's a bad feeling to do something bad. Like when you cut somebody off and driving on the highway and they blow at you, you feel bad for that.
Yep.
Like you feel bad if you skip somebody in the line, or you didn't say thank you, or you didn't hold the door open for that person that was walking behind you. Like you feel bad about that. So like, why not be a good person? It just, the good energy, that's what I want around me. And I'm fortunate to be here at K-State with so many people with good energy, that it inspires me and keeps us motivated as a staff, because we feel the love, we see the love, we hear it, and we appreciate it, and we try to reciprocate it, because we're not the stars, the people are. They make us look like the stars because they love us. And I tell our players this all the time. You're not the big deal. The students and the fans are. They make you feel like you're the big deal, but they're the ones that are real superstars, because they're spending their free time cheering us on. They're spending their time, buying tickets, supporting us. They're the star. As soon as they stop doing that, we're in trouble. So never get it twisted. And that's how Coach Tang approaches things. And when you see a leader do that, it's easy to follow suit.
Man, that's beautiful. That is so true. I'm taking that from this. That was beautiful because, people talk to me about what I'm going through and how brave I am. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm getting all that from all you guys. My support network is friends and family and fans and people I just met, like you and Coach Tang and Uric and the whole staff. I mean, just the support is the real hero here, not the guy being held up.
It's crazy. It's not crazy. It's Coach Tang. He's probably prayed for you 20 or 25 times. And like the first time he did it, my eyes was closed and I opened up my eye and I was like, is Tim in the room? But you weren't in the room. And those are the kind of friends and the people you need in your life that prays for you when you're not around. And that's like, those are the different things that I'm learning from Coach Tang, like, when you post your different updates and he sees it, he starts off every meeting with a prayer. And like numerous times he's prayed about you. The first time I opened up my eyes, I was like, hold up, is Tim in the room? But you weren't, but that's how Coach is, man. He's the best. And I just hope everybody can love each other. Life is so much easier that way.
Yeah. I think with social media, we desensitize our relationships. There's so many people out there just trying to, troll you. That's what they're called. It's probably nothing to do with their real self. If it is, I'll pray for them. But it's just their online persona. When you meet them in person, or you have there's a certain other online personality that's always trolling K-Staters that I've gotten to know offline a little bit. Still through DMs and stuff, but that's not who they are. They're a really good person, and I want to pour goodness into people, but if they give me something bitter, I'll push back. That's my fatal flaw. I'll fight authority that I think is using their pulpit as a bully. I think we've seen that. But that's kind of the way I've been since I was a kid, pushing back on the school board when I was in high school. And I guess I'm a the Irish comes out too often. But that is my flaw and or blessing. I however it works. But you also got to learn how to move on. At some point the fight is just noise. You're not doing anything other than making noise, and you're not going to accomplish anything. It's time to move on and maybe try to find a different angle or realize your approach wasn't right. And that's something I had to learn in life.
Absolutely. It takes time, and I'm still growing in that area, and I'm blessed to be around Coach Tang every day because he don't let me slip on anything. Because I'm still getting better. I'm like I always tell him when he gets on me, I'm like, Coach, Rome wasn't built in a day. And he'll be like, well, it's been 2 years now then. Like, let's get some positive stuff going here, but just continue to be a good person, man. That's what it is about in life, man, because life is so much easier that way, being a positive person. And there's always going to be negative, and when there's negative, I get off of social media, point blank period. I can't stop people. And like you said, sometimes I want to push back, but I'll call A-Dub, I'll call Frankie, Phil, I'll call somebody on staff, Bailey, to complain to them, and then they talk me out of it. That way, all right, I don't say nothing. Get off of social media, but it's life, man. You got the good and the bad.
When you're in the trenches, or however you want to describe it, when you're with these people every day, and coaching is just a different job. I mean, it really is. You're on the road, but with your colleagues, or sometimes alone, but you travel together, you do a bunch of stuff together. It really does weave a life together. That becomes a family, doesn't it?
It can.
Yeah, or it could be horrible.
It could be horrible. And we're blessed, man. We're blessed. We're blessed working with Coach Tang. He allows you to live your life, and he don't micromanage you. He wants you to think like a head coach. He wants you to operate like a head coach. What would you do? He always lets us know that whatever we do affect each other's kids, each other's families, and he just instills us in us every day, and we all live our life the right way. I mean, we are very comfortable being around each other. They put a staff rule in, I think, just for me, where I can't take my shoes off until 5:00 in the office.
That's not right.
Man, I need some help, but I gotta wait till 5:00 to take my shoes off because I was doing it before 5:00, and everybody got on me in the meeting. Was like, look, man, different people come through here. Your shoes don't need to be off, so I gotta wait until 5:00 to take my shoes off every day.
That's a bad work environment. You gotta get out of that shit. I mean, how much can we really trust a coach that drives his riding lawnmower to the gas station? That's sketchy, man. That's illegal.
And he was proud about it too. Like that might have been the proudest moment of his life, man. And every time he tells the story, he gets more fancy on it. Like, oh, I was doing this, and I was doing this, like he gets more fancy with that story every time.
He cracks me up with some of that stuff. He overshares sometimes with the media, but that's what's great about him is he doesn't hide his life from us. We're part of it. We're just part of it.
He doesn't, and I'm the same way too. Just on social media, like I don't want to be one person when you see me in person and another person on social media. I'm consistently who I am, and it gets me in trouble a lot of times in the house because my wife says you're posting nonsense, and she does a lot of gestures so that I don't post her on social media as much. So I got to edit them. Yeah, I got to put the finger down sometimes, but I want people to see us in that life. I don't want you to just know who I am on a sideline by wins and losses. I want you to know that I burned the pancakes yesterday for my daughter when I was trying to make pancakes for her. I want you to know that my daughter don't want me filming her because she don't think I'm cool. You know, my daughter gave me this haircut. So I was scared, Tim, when you text me and you said you wanted me to come on the show. My daughter cut my hair with one, like, not even a guard on it. She cut my hair, she cut my beard off. So this is why I look like this. My daughter cut my hair off. She was even trying to give me a slice in my eyebrow. I was like, no, that's too much. You know, like, but it's been a tough couple of weeks, man. My daughter's been pranking me a lot. You know, I've been cooking a lot. The wife has kind of been chilling, letting me burn all the food in the kitchen. I've been washing dishes a lot. My back is hurting. I'm realizing like how hard it is to wash dishes. You know, yeah, it sucks, man. It sucks. So that's what I love about Coach, man. He really is who he is. Like there's not an on and off switch. It's Jerome Tang every day. You know, that's who he is. That's who our staff is. Nobody's doing anything for clicks and likes, you know, because eventually, if you're pretending, you're gonna come up short pretending. But if you're really who you are, they're gonna be like, oh, that's just Coach Tang. That's just Uric. You know, that's just A-Dub, you know?
Well, Reem, I appreciate you hopping in on short notice so much. Your hair looks fantastic.
Man, thanks for the compliment because
I think hair is overrated. I've come to that conclusion after losing mine. But yeah, you look great, man. You look great. You're outside, you're in your element, and we're so blessed to have you in Manhattan, Kansas. You and this entire staff has been a blessing to our community, and thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you too, man. Thank you for being transparent. Even sometimes where, you know, you ruffle my feathers, just being transparent, but you're honest. I respect an honest man, and it's your job to be transparent and not be biased.
Yep.
And we appreciate it because that's real life, you know. Nobody's gonna sugarcoat anything for you, you know.
That makes for a great relationship. I mean, Coach Tang's told me that. He goes, the one thing I know about you is when you say something, I may not like it, but it's your truth. You believe it is. You're not just saying it.
Yes, it is. It is. It took me some growing up. I'll be honest, it probably took me a year to grow up to that. And you know, I credit Coach Tang for that, you know. And he was like, no, you gotta respect him. He's a journalist and he's allowed to speak his mind, and he'll turn to you. We gotta be better. You know, that's what he'll say. We got to be better. You know, so he writes good things. But congratulations to you and your fight. Keep fighting. You're inspiring a lot of people. I can't tell you're going to do anything because your energy and your effort to your job and what you do every day is nothing has changed. You know, you do it every day. You do it with passion. You do it with love, and we appreciate you, man.
Thank you, brother. And always remember, deep down inside, I'm a bear, and I will turn on you, and I'll also poop on your picnic table. That's what we do in the media.
I'm a teddy bear, but don't forget I'm a bear too. Yep. Bear. We're related.
I know, exactly. Well, yeah. Reem, thank you very much, man. Enjoy your day. I know you've got your daughter around, and
I got to make some pancakes right now. She's waiting for me to make some pancakes.
Then I'll shut up. Thanks for doing this.
Nah, no problem, man. Have a good one.
You bet.
All right.
That's Jareem. That was him. I mean, whether it's on the sideline, at the grocery store, on a podcast, online, that's the dude. I feel fortunate that he spent the time with me when he had family in town and was trying to get some downtime. He took an hour or so to work so that we could talk about it. But I didn't want to talk about work. I didn't get into recruiting. I didn't get into X's and O's. I didn't want to do that with this podcast because that is a really interesting man. So I wanted to know about his life, what led him to Manhattan, and the lessons Jerome Tang's poured into him are so significant. And he pours those lessons into all of us, including making me better in his short time in my life. That's it for this episode of Life of Fitz. One more to go. Football season looms large. I'm getting really busy, but I can't even tell you how excited I am for next week's guest. I hope it works out. He's a very busy guy, and he just lives down the street. That's right, another neighbor who's going to be my final guest on Life of Fitz. It's really special to me. That's it for this week. I will talk to you real soon.
I appreciate you listening to this week's edition of Life of Fitz. And thank you to all the great people at Blueville Nursery for sponsoring our show. This has been a Spirit Street production.